Remove the 2 screws. And here is our bracket. These are the 2 screw holes that you're gonna need to mount it into the car, obviously because they were these screw holes. Drill these a little bit bigger. The other thing we need to do is find out where our center is, lining up with the 2 screw holes. We can draw a line across, grab a tape measure, and that will allow us to find the center. We can then drill a pilot hole and or go right to a hole saw and make the size that we need. This is an awesome way to make a tweeter bracket for these cars. However, we have a laser. That means we're going to use that instead. We have a couple videos where we show you how we get to this step, bringing this speaker into the laptop. We use a flatbed scanner, we scan this in to our software, which gets us the image of the speaker, and then we can trace the speaker, and we have it. We never have to trace the speaker again, and all we have to do is change the hole size here to accommodate whatever tweeter we're gonna put into it. We can also add logos like this that say Jeep or 5-star. Once we get to this step, we can export that out to our laser. For this, we'll be using black 1/8" acrylic. It has a paper texture on top to keep it from getting burnt while it's in the laser. Slide that into place. For those of you curious, this is the Glowforge Plus. This will come up on our computer showing us what this is going to look like. Press the print button here. Now we keep a piece of 1/2 inch over the top of this just in case anything falls on top of it because it's glass underneath it. We don't want it to break. When it's time to print, we simply just slide it out of the way so that we can see what's going on. Our little power light lights up, we hit go, and it makes some noise. Now this whole process is going to take somewhere around 3 minutes to do. And when it quiets down, that lets me know that the fun is over and I can get to my product. That gets me these 2 guys right here. If you have a laser, make sure you grab one of the rings. You're going to need that for the next step. Let's take a look at final assembly. With a piece of acrylic, if it has a piece of paper over it like this, take your piece of this and just dig into it. Don't use a knife. Don't sit here with your finger. It's a waste of time. Remove it. Little pieces like this, just use that. This acrylic is not going to scratch the other acrylic, unlike if you use a knife or anything else. Do the same on the back, and you could be aggressive, man. You know, you dig into this stuff. We have our 2 brackets, put them on top of one another, they're identical. If we were to drill the hole inside of this, the next step would be the exact same, and that is mounting this piece of it into here. Now you may not have a set of Rockford tweeters, you may have something else. If it's got a speaker cup or anything like that that drops into place, basically the same type of installation. This is our top piece here that goes in like such. Bottom piece comes in the bottom. A couple different length screws. Tighten that up, and now we have our mount. Fish the tweeter through on the Rockford, and most tweeters are going to have a specific way that they go into their mount. Make sure you figure that out before you just sit here and push for hours trying to get it in. Some will push, some will go in and lock. These push into place. I picked the brushed top because it's not shiny, not that you'll see them, and then this one just snaps on over. This guy's done. This can get into the car. Now, you have 2 different ways you can achieve this. Now, because this is not an Alpine system, and we told you that the mid-range and the tweeter share the same wire, we are going to need to run our own wires up to those tweeters because we're going with these passive crossovers. And even if we were going to go active, we'd still need to run wires up to those tweeters. We like to use barrel connectors on our removable ends here. This is how we like to dress up our speakers that are going to go into the dash. We start with the exterior Tessa tape. We put a little piece of shrink wrap over the last winding of the tape. After attaching them, put a little piece of red and black shrink wrap, and that gives us our finished tweeter. On the passenger side, where Fernando has his hands, are those waffle pattern that you see there. They stick out between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch. That gets in the way of our speaker. We need to remove that. There's a couple different ways you can do it. All of them take time. This is not something you're going to be doing in a hurry. You can use a grinder, you can use a knife, you could sit there with a pair of pliers and remove each one. Either way, go slow, take your time to get them off. Fernando uses a combination of circular sander as well as a knife to get those out. With the sanding and cutting all done, we can now test to make sure that our speaker does not hit. Fernando has already slid the unit into place and put the top and bottom screws in. He has not put the side screw in. And we also make an 1/8 inch spacer that is designed to go right there on those two screws to add a little bit more room to lift out the bracket. It's an 1/8 inch, so it's not noticeable once the whole thing goes back into place. You can use a couple washers. As you can see there, how close it is to that speaker. It all snapped into place. You want to make sure there's a gap between the surround and that piece there, because the speaker moves. You don't want it to move and hit, because then you'll just blow the speaker eventually. Does that work for you, Fernando?
It works perfectly.
You can see it from all sides?
Yep, everything is good.
Now that we have that test fit and ready, Fernando can get all those screws that we took out of this side of the Jeep all put back in place, and we can put the airbag back in. We won't need to be over here for anything else. If you're gonna be doing an amplifier underneath the passenger seat, you may wanna wait until the very end before you put this side back together. That's entirely up to you. Everything we're going to be doing is going underneath this seat so we can complete that task. We were talking about when we run the tweeters, we're going to have to run our own wires to them because we're mounting the crossovers for them underneath the seat. I like to bring everything to a central location, which is in the dash here. Fernando has made up a nice braided wire, put some flex loom over it with some heat shrink, and then he added in the second set of bullet connectors. Drop it into place, replace the two 7mm screws, and you'll end up with this guy right here looking all sexy. And sadly, no one will ever see it.
But it looks good.
It does look good. The reason why I like to bring all my wires up in here as a central location is I can just bring my 6 wires, my RCAs and everything to a central spot and make connections there, so I know where everything is at. That way I don't have to chase, did I put a connection over here, did I put a connection over there, is it underneath, you know. It's just thinking the whole process out. If this is where my other wires are going to be, then I want to make all connections in the same location.